We're going to move on to the single-family sector. The speaker came up to me earlier to make sure I had her name right, so I guess I haven't been doing a good job. Dava Davin. It's not that hard. Dava David. David Davin. David Davin. Right? Did I even say it wrong? Who will do our single-family sector forecast?
Thank you, Paul. So as you can tell, I'm new to this stage. He couldn't get my name right, but it really is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to give the residential forecast. It's very bright, and I can barely see anybody. 2017 was a really exciting year for Southern Maine real estate. It was a great year for sellers, with home prices in Cumberland County up 7.5% over 2016. It was a great year for me as a realtor, selling over 100 homes last year. But for buyers, it wasn't necessarily a great year. They struggled with the challenge of low inventory and losing out in multiple offers. Some buyers had to write offers on 5 or 6 properties before finally securing one. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on in the presentation. But first, we're going to start out with some fun stuff. So this was the most expensive home to sell in Maine last year. It sold in Yarmouth for $6.25 million. It was on 17 acres. It had 1,500 feet of water frontage, and it even had a sandy beach. And then this guy sold up in Caribou for $3,500. A 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath on an acre. It even had a 1-car garage. So what did these two homes have in common? Obviously, they sold in Maine in the same market in the same year, but they were both cash sales. Cash is still king, even in this era of low interest rates. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation, but this is just a simple example of these two homes on opposite ends of the spectrum. Show us how our real estate prices and our trends are going to vary from county to county, from town to town, neighborhood to neighborhood in those towns, and frankly, even from one side of the street to the other, the non-water side to the water side. So Paul told me that this crowd really loves a lot of data and graphs, so I did my best to prepare that. That's what's coming up next. High level, our volume in Maine, our total sales volume is up 5%. But what's important is the trend. 5 years ago, we saw a $2.9 billion volume, and now we're up over $4 billion. 2 counties out of our 16 counties in Maine, York County and Cumberland County, account for 41% of all the volume. Today, we're going to take a look closely at Cumberland County. Our volume was similar to the statewide data, up 3.5%. But over the last 5 years, we've seen our total volume increase 39%. It's been a really good run. Okay, prices. This is really what everyone wants to know. How much is my home worth? Looking at Maine, our median sales price for a single-family home is $200,000, up 5% from last year, where it was about $190,000. Interestingly, 75% of all of the homes sold in Maine are under $300,000. The median blue color on the graph, that's our largest segment of home sales, and those prices are from $100,000 to $200,000. Looking at the blues together, those are homes under $300,000. The green, 25% of the market are over $300,000, I'm sorry. But if we look at our luxury market, only 3% of homes over $700,000 was 3% of the market. And for the high rollers out there, only 15 homes sold for over $3 million last year. So sellers often ask, when is a good time to sell my house? When am I going to get the highest price? Probably not in February. So That was the lowest sale, I'm so sorry. That was where we saw the lowest prices, and those people probably had their homes listed through the holidays, and perhaps they were desperate just to get a contract by the end of the year. The top line shows last year's prices, and month over month, we were higher than the preceding year. And as you can see, to answer the question, May right through October were the highest prices, a little dip in November, and then turning right back up in December. Okay, you guys, this is where things are about to get exciting. In Cumberland County, we saw the highest median price ever, $285,000. Prices have increased 18% since 2013. So if you're sitting in the audience and you bought your house about 5 years ago, you're probably in pretty good shape. You probably built some equity in your home. If you have a median-priced home, if you have a luxury home, as David Marsden alluded to last year, you might not see an increase at all. The luxury market is staying stagnant. For homes priced above $500,000 in Cumberland County, our prices have remained flat for 5 years. The next 2 slides are probably the biggest takeaway from the presentation. Diving into the home value trend a little bit deeper, I went back 20 years. So here's the 20-year chart. We see the previous peak in 2005, 2006, and 2007, where the median price for a single-family home in Cumberland County remained at $250,000. We had the dip, and then we've climbed back up to our highest prices ever at $285,000. So our prices now are 14% over our previous peak. What does that mean? Are we due for a correction soon? I don't think so, not quite yet. When we look at the percent price change year over year, we see, you can't see it? There you go. We see that the percent price change year over year is a lot slower this time around. The years before the previous peak, 2004, 2002 to 2003, 2004, we were seeing prices increase at a rate of 12 to 14%. Now, in the years preceding our peak now, we're only seeing prices increase at half that, at 6 to 7%. So we're climbing, but at a much slower rate. That is a really good sign. So what's selling? What is this median price home that I'm talking about? The most popular home to sell in Cumberland County was the Colonial, followed very closely by the Cape and the Ranch. 3-bedroom homes were most popular, and small lots. The most common lot size was under 1/4 of an acre. Home sizes, 15 to 2,000 square feet, and the most popular vintage, the good bone years from 1900 to 1949, or newer construction built in 2000 or newer. Prices are up, but transactions in Maine were flat. So some of the perception that the market is so hot and it's going crazy, not necessarily. The number of statewide transactions held steady to what we saw in 2016. In Portland, even when we combine single-family and condo sales, the number of transactions was actually down. What month do most houses sell? As expected, the houses come on in the spring, and then we have the most closings May through August, dipping in the colder months, Q1 and Q4. We see more of the same in Cumberland County, with transactions, again, are slightly down. So what does that mean for 2018? We're going to find out in just a little bit. Okay, besides the price, this is the most asked about statistic. Dava, how long is it going to take to sell my house? Probably not long. The inventory is so tight that days on market have plummeted. Looking at Maine, 5 years ago, it was taking 2.5 months to sell a house. Now the median days on market for a single-family home in our state is just 35 days, the lowest Maine has ever seen. Dialing it back just to Cumberland County, even more dramatic, 15 days on the market. So most folks in Cumberland County are selling their home in about 2 weeks. A blessing and a curse for some, as the scramble to find their next available home is very challenging. Buyers needed to be ready at the time of the showing to make a decision if they wanted to purchase a home, because if they slept on it, there was a good chance that home could be gone by the next day. Going back a little farther, here are the days on market since 2000. What I find fascinating is at our previous peak, it was still taking 60 days to sell a house back in 2006 and 2007, compared to 15 or 20 days that we're seeing in the last couple years. Another good sign for 2018. So that wraps up the data. Our volume is up, our transactions are flat, prices to the highest level ever, and the days on market are down. A clear representation that the low inventory is driving our prices up, creating more volume, but not more transactions. So not surprisingly, our list to sale price ratios are very high. Statewide, sellers are getting 96% of their list price. Here in Cumberland County, 98.5%. And in Portland, whether you're selling a single family home or a condo, 99% of list price. A quick look at Portland, even with the new construction condos coming to the market, 58% of properties were single family homes. The median price for a single family home in Portland, $286,000, and condos were even higher at $290,000. In contrast, the median condo price in the peak in 2005 was only $233,000. The per square foot price for Portland condos are still strong and on the rise, and the median square foot price for a new construction condo in Portland is over $400 a square foot. Along with the trends of low days on market and high list to sale price ratios comes multiple offers. Multiple offers were commonplace in 2017. A median priced home in Greater Portland could easily see 5 or 6 offers within the first 24 hours of the very first showing. So it was an exciting time for us as realtors, nerve-wracking for the buyers, and it wreaked havoc on the appraisers. Nationwide, cash sales represent 29% of all home sales, and we see that in Maine. Sellers are more likely to take a slightly lower offer if it's cash, to have a quicker close time and to avoid an appraisal. I'd like to share a quick story of a tenacious agent in my office who battled to get a single family home under contract in Portland. It was a heated multiple offer situation. She did succeed. Her offer was contingent on financing. The appraiser went out, he did his measurements, sent the report in. It came in $100,000 under the contracted price. $100,000. So that deal, unfortunately, did fall apart. The seller had a backup offer, which was cash, and it closed for $45,000 less. Cash is king. So the cleaner the offer, the better chance of acceptance. Short time frames and as few contingencies as possible. We saw some crazy stuff happening in the residential market last year. We saw buyers waiving their building inspections. They'd lose out on a couple offers and then just say, listen, I don't even want to do an inspection. I just want the house. I just want to get it. We saw people waiving their appraisals, even if they had bank financing, saying, the bank needs an appraisal, but if it comes in low, I'm going to bring the cash to closing to make the deal happen. We even saw a new term introduced in our market, an escalation clause, somewhat controversial among realtors, but basically, if a buyer's in multiple offer situation, they write in, I'm going to pay a defined amount, say $1,000 over the highest price up to some ceiling. How am I doing, you guys? Okay? All right, trends. Trends in 2017. So what is driving the Maine real estate market? Maine last year, for the first time, was classified as an inbound state. That means more people are moving into Maine that are moving out. So why are they moving here from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and other states? As we heard earlier, it's not for our job opportunities. What we find with the clients that we work in, people are choosing Maine. They're simply choosing it. They've checked out other coastal areas and are attracted to ours by our affordability compared to other areas. They've fallen in love with our active lifestyle, sailing and skiing, and our food scene and our beer scene. A lot of times they grew up here, or they went to college here, or they had a family camp here, and they're coming home in a sense. They're choosing Maine. Have you guys heard of this? So Suburban, this is a national trend that I believe we're gonna start to see come to Maine. The definition, a suburban area that has the feel of an urban area with great walkability to retail and recreation from a residence. The sweet spot between city and suburban. These neighborhoods are in a suburban area, not an urban area, generally with highly rated schools. They have a variety of home options, from smaller homes on single-family lots, condos to townhomes, but the key is the walkability. You can walk to the market, you can walk to get a cup of coffee, or you can take your dog out on a nature trail. We don't have a lot of this in Maine yet, but I do see the need and the demand for it. The developers of Stroudwater Preserve off of Westbrook Street in Portland have this vision. Another good example is Dunstan Crossing in Scarborough. They have sidewalks, park-like common areas. They have nature trails. They even added a new retail area so residents can walk or bike to it. So we'll continue to see these neighborhoods that are designed to be walkable and sociable. Other trends we saw in 2017, the comeback of the ranch. Our downsizers and baby boomers are looking for one-floor living with a first-floor master. As was talked about earlier too, new construction or fully renovated homes. People want a useful floor plan. They don't want the formal dining rooms or that formal front room. They just want spaces that they can use that are smaller and efficient. And they just want to drop their bags and move in and get on with their lives. And as David Marsden referred to last year, the continued trend of multi-generational living. I know my parents come and stay with me for 4 months out of the year, but also returning adult children. So, my 2018 forecast. I think we're going to be steady Eddie. I think we're going to see similar results as we did in 2017. The inventory is going to remain low, with supply catching up toward the end of 2018. Our cash offers and low days on market will continue. We will see growth in new construction and in planned communities. Single-level homes, smaller and efficient homes are going to be desirable for downsizers and our millennials. The millennials could account for 43% of all home buyers next year. They're able to qualify for heftier mortgages and save for a down payment even as they're paying off their student loan debt. Mortgage rates, as James indicated, they've hovered between 4 and 4.25% for most of this year, but they could rise next year to closer to 5%. Trump's tax reform might affect the higher priced homes and the highly property taxed homes, but it'll have little effect on the median priced home buyer and seller. And of course, there is a continued need for senior housing in Maine, lots of opportunity there. And my final thought is that inventory will increase during the second half of 2018. Prices are still going up, but not quite as dramatically as we saw in 2017. Thank you so much.